Hi, how you doing? It's Jeff Sinker. Just bringing you a short lesson today. This was inspired really from one of my students that asked me a question about applying the different pentatonic shapes over the CAGED system and some little exercises that he could use to improve his playing. So I thought, well, let's just turn this into a video, then you can all watch it, all my students can share this. If you're not one of my students, you're more than welcome just to follow what we're talking about here. Now, I'm going to be putting this in the key of G, and we're just going to look at the chords. We've got the chords with the G standard open, we've got the G using the E shape, we've got the G using the D shape, we've got the G with the C shape, and then the G with the A shape. Now, what we've got to understand is what are the best options for playing over these chords. Now, if you think of a major pentatonic, we start off with pentatonic 1. Now, that's not really the best shape when you're doing with the G open string, or the G open chord, should I say. Because the best option for that really is major pentatonic 5, because we've got these open strings that are being played through this G chord, and the chord tones that we've got are applied over that shape. Because if we think of position 5 major pentatonic, we have got and they work nicely over the G, because I've got all these open strings are actually part of the pentatonic scale, so why don't we use them? The other thing that I always get the students to do is to focus on the chord tones. Now, this is just about noodling, just having some fun, just playing the chord and outlining the chord tones as you're playing through, getting used to the safety net as you're playing. Now, if you play the wrong note, if you're focused on where your chord is, you're going to be able to get back in. So it sounds correct. It sounds as though you actually meant to play it. Now, a lot of people, when they play the wrong note, they freeze. They just hold it there. And they don't get back to a chord tone. Because if you get back to the chord tone, it sounds pretty cool. What I always advise my students is to actually advance forward. So if you play a wrong note, don't go backwards. Just take that down. I always think there's that. Sounds a cooler way of actually getting you out of a problem, so he just doesn't hang there and people look at you. Whoa. So really what you're trying to do here is you've got your chords and you're just going to noodle around. With that chord there. Just getting yourself used to seeing where the chord tones are. Next up, we've got the G, which is over the E shape. Now, that's going to be pentatonic 1, and you'll start to see there's a sequence here building up. We've got pentatonic 1. And I'm just moving around that scale, focusing on these notes. So no matter what I do, I'm just... So again, if I play a note that's out of that pentatonic, you're still going to pull it back in. By being comfortable where them notes are. So it starts to work. You know, I intentionally just play it all over the place, but what I was still focusing on was these notes, which is the most important thing. because you're taking the elements from that pentatonic, you're taking the chord tones. Playing outside, people talk about playing outside, you're just playing notes away from that scale. But as long as you come back into it, it's going to sound correct. And obviously when we start to develop your playing, we start to look at different scales. If you still got them, if you maintain that confidence on knowing where them notes are, it's going to be a lot easier for you to play. So when you play a different chord, you just take the same idea that you play the, play the G here. So if I play an A, it's all going to work. The D shape obviously going to go pentatonic too. You've got that D. So, well, I played the wrong part. So I'm just maneuvering round. Again, focusing on these them notes, chord tones all the time. That's what everything. Putting any note in outside of that, it's fine. As long as you drive it back to one of the chord tones. So we've got the D. Next up, we have got the G over the C shape. Of course, we're going to take pentatonic number 3. So we've got that. So you're just noodling around. Getting yourself comfortable over that shape. Against the chord. Always keep reinforcing the chord back so again it relates to what you're doing. You've got that. Resolving back. Next, we have got the A shape. So, of course, we're going to take pentatonic number 4. So over that A-shaped chord, you've got, they're your target notes. If I just move outside of that scale, as long as I bring it back in, it's going to work out, it's going to sound fine. So, and again, I'm reinforcing my positional shape over the top as I play. So again, when I move to a different chord, I'm not playing G anymore, you're going to find that now it's going to make more sense to you. If I play a D, and that's really what we're aiming for. That no matter what chord you're playing through, you've got your pentatonic scale shape behind. So as we start to develop your playing, normally when you start to play, you tend to play one scale over a chordal progression, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. But as you develop, you want to start being able to play various scales to add more colour. I always say that when you're dealing with a scale over a chord over a progression, your scale is like your paint palette. You're an artist. If you're painting with a pentatonic, you've got 5 colours. So you've got to be very creative with the 5 colours. Once you go into a major scale, you've got 7 colours, you've got more paint. If you then start to apply modal ideas over your chord progressions, you've got even more colours. And of course then, if you're changing your scale over each single chord, your picture has got a greater choice of colours over the whole canvas. So nothing wrong with doing pentatonics. You've got to start cutting your teeth. At times the movements on certain chords are so quick, you haven't got the time when you first start to even think about what am I going to play with different scales. So absolutely nothing wrong with that. But as you get more and more confident, you get more and more ideas, you'll be able to start applying more and more of these sounds and tones to your playing, just to expand it. So by starting off with playing these chords and getting used to seeing your scale behind the chord means that when you do approach scales changing over the chord, so you're applying it each time to individual chord, it starts to become easier for you. One little final thing again that was mentioned by my student that I was brought up, that he always says he's comfortable playing his pentatonic scales. It's cool, loves doing it. When he's going to play the major pentatonics, he says it doesn't sound right. He says when he's bending his strings, it doesn't sound correct. So I looked at what he was doing, and it was quite clear that he is approaching his pentatonics the same way. He's approaching his minor pentatonics and he's approaching his major pentatonic. Now, when we play our minor pentatonics, we're used to certain strings where we can bend. If we play the minors, everybody likes to bend that G note. So we get that. And then the same. So we can do a whole tone there. The same on here. And we don't tend to bend the note here. We don't the 5 on the D string in the G minor pentatonic, because most people quickly realise that's quite a bit of a bend. It's a tone and a half interval, so it's quite a big bend. But the problem is, as soon as we start playing our major pentatonics, we tend to think string still. So as we play in our major pentatonic, we start to look for that little half tone and whole tone bend on the same strings, and it doesn't work because the intervals are shifted by going across to the major pentatonic. So when we think about what we've got as far as the scales and the notes and the intervals that we've got to raise, if we're playing across here, we're on that G string, we're looking for that whole tone. It's not a whole tone, it's a whole and a half. So you get... And then we move across here. We're looking for that one there, but again, that's a whole half tone, tone and a half. So we've got to understand what we're actually playing. What are the actual scale tones that we're looking for? Which ones can take a whole tone? Which ones can take a half tone? And I found from teaching with some of the students, I do find that that's what puts them off using this pentatonic. Major just doesn't work for them on the majors because they're tending to bend the wrong string. So when they bend, it sounds like keys, tune, they pull away from it. So do remember on this, when you're playing your major pentatonic, you've got to look at where your next note is in the pattern. Once you get that idea back in by your playing, things start to come together. Well, hope you enjoyed this little short session. Let's say it was inspired by a question that was raised by one of my students earlier today. If you've got any comments, any questions about what I've just talked about, just drop me a line. I'm sure I'd like to hear what you have to say. But until the next time, this is Jeff Sinker, wishing you well. Thanks for your company, love your support, and I will speak to you soon. Until then, goodbye.